everyone, it's Kristen. So, if you didn't join me for this video I did on Spider-Woman 38, um, if you want to go back and watch it, that's where I tell you her origin and explain more about her. Because we are going to do, in connection to that, we're going to do this one, Uncanny X Men 148, because it features Dazzler and Spider-Woman. This is like basically a continuation of this one. So I thought it'd be fun to do this one. Plus, it's X-Men. Okay, so we open on Cyclops, who has left the team because this is, of course, after the Dark Phoenix saga, after Jean is seemingly killed, but we all know she's not really dead. But anyway, so for this purpose right now, she's dead. So he leaves the team and goes, to kind of find himself or find his purpose after, Jean has left and yeah, and he doesn't know what to do now. So he leaves it. He is on this boat with Lee Forrester, and they get shipwrecked on an island in the Bermuda Triangle. And he doesn't have his visor. He doesn't have his glasses. So, Lee knows about his optic blast, but she doesn't know about, his connection to X-Men. So here they are on this island trying to survive. And it's in the Bermuda Triangle, and it's a weird island, like, it looks alien in nature, and they have no idea, what it is, how they got there, and they've been exploring, but they can't find anybody else. So, basically, Lee makes a pass at Cyclops. She kisses him, and he returns it, and then he pushes her away and says, "No, I can't do this." And she's like, "What's wrong? Is it Jean?" And he's like, "Her name is Jean Grey, and we were in love, and she died." And, he's like, "I care about you, but I can't do this. I can't, commit to anything else. Like, I can't commit to, like, I don't want to get involved again." And Lee's like, "I'm not asking you to get involved. I'm scared. I'm tired. I'm lonely. I'm hungry. I just want some human warmth and compassion. And if you can't even give me that, then to blazes with you." I guess they weren't allowed to say, to hell. I guess they weren't allowed to say to hell with you. Because normally, isn't that what you'd say in that instance? I don't know. I've never told anyone that, so I really don't know. It sounds off to say it like that too, though. To hell with you. I don't know. Anyway, so she leaves him, and so he's standing there all by himself, and he's like, "Crap. Like, now what do I do? Because, I'm essentially blind because I can't open my eyes." So he feels around, stumbles on a rock, opens his eyes, unleashes his optic blast, put his bandage back on, and Lee comes back and apologizes, and he apologizes to her. So then we find the X-Men mansion, and Wolverine and Nightcrawler are engaged in a game of tag, like hide and seek. So Nightcrawler is hiding from Wolverine. He's teleported ahead, and then he teleported back, and he scrambled up this tree, and because it's pre-dawn, there's still a lot of shadows, and since Nightcrawler has that dark coloring, he thinks he's safe. So he sees Wolverine below him, and then all of a sudden Wolverine's gone. So he teleports down to check it out, and Wolverine tags him. Like he does, he acts like he's gonna, unleash his claws, but he doesn't. And, he says, "Oh, I missed." And he's like, "Scared you, didn't I? Serves you right, making a dumb move like that." And Kurt's like, "But I was looking right at you. And then you just disappeared. Like, I never looked away, and yet you disappeared." And Wolverine says, "It's an old ninja trick I learned in Japan, standing in plain sight without being seen." Which makes me think of Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy movies, where he's like standing there still and thinks he's invisible. But apparently Wolverine really knows how to do that. But when I read that, that's just what it made me think of. So the next page, we see Storm and Professor Xavier and Moira and Angel. And Angel is upset at Professor Xavier because, well, he doesn't think Wolverine should be there. He thinks he's too dangerous and he shouldn't be a member of the X Men. And Storm is upset with Angel because she thinks, well, the whole point is we all have this capacity for good in us. And so to deny Wolverine that, isn't that denying the whole reason that why we're here? So, you know, basically Professor Xavier just says he's just worried that that he doesn't know if that goal is worth the cost. So what happened next page is you see Banshee and Colossus. Colossus is helping him fix the Blackbird, and you see Ileana when she's little, like 7, and the professor wants to scan her and monitor her to see if she has any X genes. And this is, of course, in 1981. Pretty sure, yeah, 1981. Uncanny X Men 148, before she turned into a teenager. Like in Uncanny X Men 160, which I'm pretty sure I did a video on that, is where she all of a sudden ages like 7, 8 years, like in an instant, because she was taken to limbo and she aged up there. So this is before that. She's still little. And so Wolverine, Nightcrawler pops in and says, Banshee, you're needed. So Banshee meets his daughter, Teresa, for the first time, Siren, and she gives him this letter. He reads it and it explains everything. Like Black Tom confesses to like everything that's going on, and the professor basically is eavesdropping, and everyone else is there. And we see Spider-Woman is there, and that is because like in the very end of this, when she meets the X-Men, she mentions that she got a letter from Storm saying that Siren will soon be reunited with her father. Because Banshee didn't know about her. So, and I explained all that in Spider-Woman 38. So, Moira leaves. She seems upset. And Storm goes after her and says, what's wrong? And Moira says, well, it's just now there's someone else. I love Sean. I love Banshee. But yet, now there's someone else for him to love. Now his focus is split. And I feel like selfish and bad for saying that. And Storm says, I understand because I feel the same way with about Stevie Hunter, Kitty's dance teacher, because Kitty and Storm had this, this bond, and yet Storm feels threatened because Kitty also has that bond with Stevie Hunter. So she says, I understand. Excuse me. And then Moira says also, I can't give him kids because, and she said, because I already had one once and he turned out to be a mutant monster. Now they're referring to Proteus, which is Uncanny X Men 125. It says 125 through 128, which of course he ended up dying. Of course, in the animated series, they couldn't have him killed because, it was meant for kids. Just like Phoenix didn't die because it was meant for kids. Anyway, that was, crazy story. And really, he hasn't resurfaced since then because I think he's like, his death is one of the deaths that they're just like, I don't think we want to really touch that. I mean, I think he's been mentioned since then, but I don't think I really don't think they brought him back. Well, I mean, they brought him back, but not in the sense that like it's really him because like during the House of M when Scarlet Witch changed reality, she actually changed it, made it to where he was brought back and he like escaped, you know, decimation and through like and started working with the exiles. And then you see him like in the new era, like helping resurrect people. I don't know. Nobody ever really stays dead, but anyway, like I, I don't know. That was like one of the coolest storylines, and like what an amazing, complicated villain like he made. I think like he's one of the most powerful, greatest X Men villains that there were, even though he's pretty short lived. So anyway, you see this shadowy figure coming out from a manhole in the city, and you realize it's Caliban. Of course, this is the first appearance of Caliban, so you didn't know who he was when it says, because he talks in third person. He always has. And it says, it has been so long since Caliban has seen the sky. Well, like I said, this is his first appearance, so you don't notice or you don't know that's who he is because this is the first time you're introduced to him. So he basically cut him out from underneath the sewers because he senses people that are like him near him when he thought he was the only one that was like him. And he's tired of being alone and he just wants friends. He just wants people that are like him to be around. So where we go next is, like I said, Dazzler. She's in this issue, which I think is fun because, she first appeared in X-Men 130 as part of the Phoenix Saga, and then she just makes brief appearances, since then because she doesn't join the X-Men like we talked about in a different video until Uncanny X Men 214. So it's fun to see her just, make an appearance. So basically, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, Stevie Hunter, Storm, and Kitty have been invited as Dazzler's guests to this nightclub where she's performing. And you can see they're all dressed up. And like I said, Storm gets to wear the most fun clothes. And only Storm could wear them. I mean, honestly. So they're, Jessica just thanks them for inviting her and how much fun this is. And the shadowy figure, Caliban, comes into the building because this is where he senses, other mutants like himself. And of course, the guards, humans, are terrified. And Caliban tries to control their emotions, but their emotions like overwhelm him because, of course, he's been living in seclusion for like who knows how long. So he accidentally hurts them. And Jessica thinks she hears a gunshot, but she's like, it must be, must be nothing. So Dazzler steps out onto the stage. She's not wearing her roller skates, but she's wearing like disco inspired shoes. And I named my cat after her because not very many X-Men, females, have masks and like even past or present. And so Dazzler, her little face, it kind of looks like Dazzler's mask or the face paint she uses when she first premiered. So that's why I named her Dazzler. Because I think she just kind of looks like, with the teeny bit of white down here and then the white all here, it looks like she's wearing Dazzler's, face paint. So anyway, so it's fun to see her. And then, they hear screams coming from somewhere else. Caliban has scared people, and so Kitty jumps into action, even though they didn't tell her to. She phases, and she starts to fall, and then she starts to walk on air, and she's like, "Oh, Storm would be so proud of me." This is, she just joined the X Men in like 143 or something, so this is just a couple issues later. So she's still getting a handle on her powers. So she's pretty proud of the fact that she can walk on air. So Storm, of course, is, upset that Kitty just ran off because she shouldn't be. So basically, Dazzler amps up her act even more because she senses that Storm um, needs a distraction so that she can make her escape. So she and Jessica go into the hallway in order to change into their costumes. And in order to change, Storm whips up some fog to cover them as they change. And then Kitty finds Caliban, and Caliban grabs her, and Storm, shoots lightning at Caliban because it looks like he, has kidnapped Kitty. And Spider-Woman says she was going to do a venom blast on him, but she didn't want to hurt Kitty. And yet Storm could shoot lightning at him and no problem and not hurt her. And they're all saying, unhand the child or suffer the consequences. And he's like, he'd know. And he's like, you are like Caliban, yet the same, yet you threaten and attack him. So basically, the Spider Woman dives after him, and he punches her out the window, I might add. So and then he goes down the elevator shaft. And there's lots of screaming, glass breaking, so Dazzler can sense the crowd's panicking. So she's like, I've never tried this before, but I need to, not dazzle them, like stun them, short circuit their brains, but like calm them. So she switches her light and sound frequency to like something different. And the crowd starts to calm and, become okay again. So that's something she's never tried, and she tried it and it worked, thankfully, she said. So Storm goes down the elevator shaft after Caliban, and Jessica decides to go out and scale the building, like go down the building, so that she can meet him at the only entrance, or at least, well, she says the only unlocked entrance, but really, I mean, sounds like it's the only entrance. Meet him at the entrance, or at least see him as he comes out. So she does. She meets him at the entrance, and she, fights with him, and yet he almost seems to overpower her. Oh, and in this, I forgot to point out, when Storm's in the elevator shaft, she like starts to have a panic attack because of her claustrophobia. And she's like, I must, push on. I must hold on for Kitty's sake. So at this point, it's still a super, well, I guess her being fairly new to the X-Men at this point, it's still, something that she really suffers with. I don't think it ever really goes away, though. So Spider-Woman fights with Caliban. Basically, she's kind of getting her butt kicked in a way. And then Storm aims a lightning bolt at him, and Kitty wakes up and she's like, how did I get here? Where am I? She's like, some X-Men I am. I must have fainted. And Caliban's like, please, no more, no more. And, you know, Spider-Woman's like, look after Sprite, because she's called Sprite at this point, not Shadowcat yet. And I'll handle Caliban. And he reveals his face for the first time. And he goes through, his feel as a, um, you know, Spider-Woman asks him, you're a mutant, aren't you? And that's what you meant when you said we were the same. Um, and Caliban says, I don't, Caliban doesn't understand what you're saying, but I felt a presence in his mind and in his heart, like a great shining light. And it drew him out of the underworld, and he could not help himself. And he doesn't want to go back, though. He doesn't want to go back to where he's alone forever. And these people, he mentions that since birth, Caliban was hated because he was different, because of his hideous appearance. His father named him for a monster, but he's not a monster. He's a human being. So, interesting. I had totally forgotten that Caliban comes from the Shakespeare play The Tempest, where Caliban is the feral, misshapen son of, I think, the sorceress. So I'd totally forgotten that that's where Caliban comes from. So, Caliban apologizes. He doesn't wish, to cause anyone harm. It was just basically a big misunderstanding. And Storm says, Caliban, you can come with us. We're the same. You can come and have a home with us. And, we all acted hastily tonight. All is forgiven. It's fine. And then all of a sudden, they hear sirens, police sirens probably coming. And so they turn around and Caliban has disappeared. Gone back into the sewers. So they're back, they're back in the nightclub, and then they're just talking about what transpired. And, Dazzler's sitting with them at this point. Her show's over. And Spider-Woman says, we should have gone after him. I've been an outcast. In some ways, I still am, and I wouldn't wish that fate on anyone. And what's interesting is Storm's like, nor would I, but what's done cannot be undone. She doesn't say, yeah, we should go after him, or we should, and she never apparently mentions him to Professor Xavier or anything. The next time we see Caliban is the first appearance of the Morlocks, which is Uncanny X Men 169, where he, I think, kidnaps Kitty again and tries to make her marry him. That could be in issue 170, but I think that 169 is the beginning of that story arc. So anyway, but yeah, they just are like, oh well, and never think of him again. At least he apparently found his people down there. So, and then we go back to Lee and Cyclops, and they're still just wandering around, no food, trying to figure out what to do, and they hear a voice, and he goes, ahem. And he goes, I thought my island was deserted. How pleasant to discover I was mistaken. And Cyclops is like, I recognize that voice. It's Magneto. And so Cyclops is freaking out, of course, and he hopes that Lee doesn't mention anything about his optic blast, because it doesn't seem like Magneto knows who he is at this point. So just kind of freaking out about that. Anyway, so that was just kind of a fun, kind of standalone story, X-Men story. And Kitty also reflects on the fact that, she kind of views Nightcrawler as this monster because of his appearance, and kind of judges him for that and doesn't want to be near him. And so after Caliban brings up the whole, everyone thinks I'm a monster, but I'm just a person, and I just want to have family. I just want to be loved. She starts to kind of think, well, maybe I can rethink my thoughts on Nightcrawler. Maybe it's not too late for us to be friends. So kind of a little lesson in there. Um, but anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope you join me for future videos. And I just thought that was like I said, a fun standalone issue. Had Dazzler in it. Always happy to see her. Always think that's fun. Um, yeah, I was thinking about, okay, what's next for this year? But really, um, since Madam Web has come out, I think the only other Marvel, movie, so to speak, is Deadpool 3. So it's kind of weird because usually we have like two or three or four Marvel movies in a year, and I don't even think there's any other, well, okay, X Men, the animated series, I'm ready for that. But I don't think there's anything else that's gonna come out. So I don't know. Pretty slow year. I blame COVID. I think that pushed everything back. But anyway, so thank you for joining me for this video, and I hope you like and subscribe and join me for future videos. Until then, bye.